Yes, sir. No sound? I'm on.
Can you hear? Okay.
Can everybody hear me?
There we go.
Now I'm good. Now I got sound.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. We have any music fans? Like if you had a choice, you'd rather listen to music than watch television or anything like that. Have you ever noticed that there are some songs on the radio that are just really, well, dumb? No thought was gone into the lyrics, no thought really gone into the music, and it just kind of sounds like every other song on the radio. There seems to be a lot of those, but occasionally you'll find a song where the lyrics just make you stop and think. And those are the good songs, where you're singing along and all of a sudden there's a line in it and you stop singing and you start thinking. And there's a lot of those songs. I heard one on the radio the other day from a Christian artist named Lauren Daigle. And it was a song by her called First. And the initial line, the initial lyric of that song said this: "Before I bring my need, I will bring my heart." That's pretty deep. Because a lot of us, when we come to God, we come with our needs first. And hope then that our heart will fall in behind it. But that song is talking about bringing the heart first. It's pretty countercultural to the way we think. And those are very, very inspiring words. And we should always bring our heart to God well before we even think about spouting out what we think we need. And God's grace, love, and mercy should inspire us to do just that. When we get to the prayer, we just skip over certain things. But when we look at Nehemiah, that's exactly what he did. Can you guys hear me all right? Yeah? That's all right. I'll be fine. Okay. So, that's exactly though what Nehemiah did. He brought his heart before God before he brought any needs. And we saw that in the first chapter of Nehemiah. He learned of the destruction and then the city walls being down. And he comes before God with a broken heart. Before he claims his need, before he claims anything about wanting to go and do anything, he comes to God with a broken heart. I mean, you just picture, he's in Susa with the king of Persia, and he's his royal cupbearer. And as Pastor Jeff said a few weeks back, that the royal cupbearer was one who drank the wine or whatever the king was to drink to make sure it wasn't poisoned. So he's in the king's service, and he's serving the king daily and faithfully. And all of a sudden his brothers come to visit, and they tell him of the story of the way Jerusalem is now. Now Nehemiah didn't grow up in Jerusalem. He grew up in captivity, in the Persian captivity. But he heard stories from his ancestors of how God served the Israelite nation. And he heard how God did all these wonderful things and these huge and big things, and how the Israelites built Jerusalem, built this wall, and now the wall is destroyed and people can attack Jerusalem. And his heart breaks. And then in chapter 2, he gets this bright idea, hey, you know what, I want to do something about it. And so he goes to the king and asks the king to let him go and go back to Jerusalem and fix the wall. And the king says, yeah, go ahead, I'll send you off, I'll send you letters so you can get what you need to help build the wall back up. And so he goes into Jerusalem and he takes a couple days surveying the scene, seeing what the people are like, seeing what the town is like. And each night he goes out and he looks at the wall and he examines what needs to be done. And then at the end of chapter 2, he tells the people of Jerusalem, we need to rebuild this wall. What do you say? And they say, let's do it. Let's build the wall. Let's fix this town. And then you get into chapter 3. I'm going to read chapter 3. Bear with me as I struggle through it because it has a lot of interesting names. Chapter 3 says, Then Eliashib, the high priest, and the other priests started to rebuild at the sheep gate. They dedicated it and set its doors, building the wall as far as the Tower of the 100, which they dedicated, and the Tower of Hananel. People from the town of Jericho worked next to them, and beyond them was Eckert, son of Imri. The fish gate was built by the sons of Hasaniah. They laid the beams, set up its doors, and installed its bolts and bars. Meremoth, son of Uriah, the grandson of Hakaz, repaired the next section of the wall. Beside him were Meshullam, son of Berechiah, and the grandson of Meshezabel. And then Zadok, son of Baana. Next were the people from Tekoa, though their leaders refused to work with the construction supervisors. The old city gate was repaired by Jediah, son of Paash, and Meshullam, son of Besadiah. They laid the beams, set up the doors, and installed its bolts and bars. Next to them were Melatiah from Gibeon, Jadon from Meronoth, people from Gibeon, and people from Mizpah, the headquarters of the governor of the province west of the Euphrates River. Next was Uzziel, son of Harahiah, a goldsmith by trade, who also worked on the wall. Beside him, Hananiah, the manufacturer of perfumes. They restored a section of Jerusalem as they built the broad wall. Rephaniah, son of Hur, the leader of half the district of Jerusalem, was next to them on the wall. Next, Jediah, son of Haramath, repaired the wall next to his own house. And next to him was Hattush, son of Hasabniah. Then came Malchijah, son of Harim, and Hasub, son of Pahath Moab, who repaired another section of the wall in the Tower of Ovens. Shalom, son of Halahesh, and his daughters repaired the next section. He was the leader of the other half of the district of Jerusalem. The valley gate was repaired by the people from Zanoah, led by Hanan. They set up its doors and installed its bolts and bars. They also repaired the 1,500 feet of wall to the dung gate. The dung gate was repaired by Malchijah, son of Rechab, the leader of Beth-Hakarim, the Beth-Hakarim district. He rebuilt it, set up its doors, and installed its bolts and bars. The fountain gate was repaired by Shalom, son of Kol-Hazra, the leader of the Mizpah district. He rebuilt it, roofed it, set up its doors, and installed the bolts and bars. Then he repaired the wall of the pool of Shalom near the king's garden, and he rebuilt the wall as far as the stairs that descend from the city of David. Next to him was Nehemiah, son of Azbuk, the leader of half the district of Bethzer. He rebuilt the wall from the place across the tomb of David's family as far as the water reservoir in the house of warriors. Next to him, repairs were made by groups of Levites working under the supervision of Raham, son of Bani. Then came Hashabiah, the leader of the half district of Keilah, whose supervised the building of the wall on behalf of his own district. Next down the line were his countrymen, led by Benui, son of Henadad, the leader of the other half of the district of Keilah. Next to them, Ezra, son of Yeshua, the leader of Mizpah, repaired another section of the wall from the ascent of the armory near the angle wall in the wall. Next to him was Barak, son of Zabai, who zealously repaired an additional section from the angle of the door of the house of Eliashib, the high priest. Meremoth, son of Uriah, and grandson of Hakaz, rebuilt another section of the wall, extending from the door of Eliashib's house to the end of the house. The next repairs were made by the priests from the surrounding region. After them, Benjamin and Hashab repaired the section across from the house, and Azariah, son of Messiah, the grandson of Ananiah, repaired the section across from his house. Next was Benai, son of Henadad, who rebuilt another section of the wall from Azariah's house to the angle of the corner. Bilal, son of Uzziah, carried on the work from the point opposite the angle and the tower of the projects up from the king's upper house beside the court of the guard. Next to him were Pedadiah, son of Parosh, with the temple servants living on the hill of Ophel, who repaired the wall as far as a point across from the water gate to the east and projecting tower. Then came the people of Tekoa, who repaired another section across from the great projecting tower and over the wall of Ophel. Above the horse gate, the priests repaired the wall. Each one repaired the section immediately across from his own house. Then Zadok, son of Immer, also rebuilt the wall across from his own house. And beyond him was Shemaiah, son of Shechaniah, the gatekeeper of the east gate. Next, Hananiah, son of Shelemiah, and Hanun, the sixth son of Zalaph, repaired another section, while Meshullam, son of Berechiah, rebuilt the wall across from where he lived. Malchijah, one of the goldsmiths, repaired the wall as far as the housing for the temple servants and merchants, across from the inspection gate. Then he continued as far as the upper room at the corner. The other goldsmiths and merchants repaired the wall from that corner of the sheep gate. That's a fun chapter to read. And at first glance, it may seem like one of those lists in the Bible, you know, that you kind of skip over while reading, or you skip over it because you can't pronounce any of the names, and you don't really see anything special in it. But in reality, there's a lot of valuable information in that list. And if we just look at it hard enough, we'll find it. And not only will we find it, but we'll be inspired by it. And I really hope that that's what we can do today, that we could be inspired by this list. And not just look at it as a group of names and a group of sections of the wall, but we would see it as something else. We would see it as inspiration. Because ultimately that's what the book of Nehemiah is. It's a great inspiration for leaders. And it's a great way that can inspire others into leadership. We have to realize that the people who helped rebuild the walls, they didn't come to Jerusalem with Nehemiah. Right? Nehemiah didn't come into town with this huge workforce to rebuild the walls. These people lived there. Day in and day out, they lived in a town where the whole city walls were destroyed. So every day they're looking at the destruction. Every day it's becoming more and more normal. And it comes to a point where eventually they don't even really notice. They don't really even see the big deal about the wall being down. But Nehemiah helped them see that the destroyed wall was a shameful reminder that God destroyed the city because of the people's sin. But he also showed them that the rebuilt wall would be a great sign of God's blessing and proof that God was bringing his promise of restoration back to his people. And as you read chapter 3, you're really kind of just taking a look of the destruction of the wall. And the way they have it written is they're taking you on a tour. They're starting in the north quadrant and they're working their way around counterclockwise. And as you read through, you're walking that path. You're walking around the city and you're being introduced to the people that are working on that section of the wall. Each section, you're meeting somebody new. And there are three key elements of leadership that are in this list. This list of who did what in the rebuilding of the wall around Jerusalem. The first element you see is that leaders inspire other leaders. Leaders inspire other leaders. Just look at, here's a few verses that support that. Verse 1, then Elisha, the high priest, and the other priests started to rebuild at the sheep gate. They dedicated it and set up its doors, building the wall as far as the Tower of the 100, in which they dedicated in the Tower of Hananel. Verse 9 says, Raphaiah, son of Hur, the leader half the district of Jerusalem, was next to them on the wall. Verse 12 says, Shallum, son of Halahesh, and his daughters prepared the next section. He was the leader of the other half of the district of Jerusalem. Getting other leaders on board with your vision can and will get more people involved in working toward your vision. It all starts in your heart. There's a young man in his teens now, he might be in his early 20s. His name is Austin Gutman. And at the age of 9, he was watching television with his parents, and all of a sudden this commercial comes on, and it's a commercial about AIDS orphans. And in that commercial, he's introduced to an AIDS orphan named Maggie. And at that time, at 9 years old, it just broke his heart. And God kept that in his heart for a long period of time. By the time he was 13, he had decided to do something about it. And he started an organization called Hoops of Hope, I'm sorry. And basically what he said was, you know what, I can't stand to see orphans around the world becoming orphans because of AIDS. And I may only be one person, but I want to do something about it. What can I do? The only thing he truly liked to do was shoot free throws. So he arranged a fundraising by shooting free throws. And today, to this point, Hoops of Hope has helped over 40,000 people get involved in raising money to help AIDS orphans, and has raised over $2.5 million to go toward helping AIDS orphans. Max Lucado, a famous Christian leader, pastor of a church in San Antonio, says this about Austin. He says, Austin and his family are an inspiration to all of us. Can one person make a huge difference? Austin proves the answer is yes. Leaders inspire other leaders. But it all starts in the heart. God gives us all a desire and a passion to do something. Nehemiah also proves that the answer is yes. Can one person make a huge difference? Yes. The second element we see is that leaders inspire the but people. We all know those people, right? Those people that say, but I'm only one person, what can I do? Or those people that say, but I don't know if I'm qualified to do that. That's an answer you hear a lot in the church. When you're asked to volunteer for this or volunteer for that, but I don't know if I'm qualified. Is your heart beating? Guess what? You're qualified. Verses 6 through 8, listen to what it says. The old city gate was repaired by Joadiah, son of Paseah, and Meshullam, son of Besadiah. They laid the beams, set up its doors, and installed its bolts and bars. Next to them were Melatiah from Gibeon, Jadon from Meronoth, people from Gibeon, and people from Mizpah, the headquarters of the governor of the province west of the Euphrates River. Next was Uziel, son of Harahiah, a goldsmith by trade, who also worked on the wall. Beyond him was Hananiah, a manufacturer of perfumes. They rebuilt and restored a section of Jerusalem as they built the broad wall. You have politicians, you have goldsmiths, you have perfume manufacturers, all coming together to help rebuild the wall. They weren't general contractors on the side. They weren't construction workers. They didn't have their own hard hats. They were people who had nothing to do with building, but they saw that they could do something. A lot of times we have the vision that when we're asked to do something, we look at the big picture. We look at the big job. And we don't focus on our one little section. The one thing we're called to do. Each of these individuals, they didn't look at the entire job. They didn't say, you want me to rebuild the entire wall? I can't do that by myself. But they said, you want me to work on this section right here? I can do that. I can be responsible for this area. Not a problem. And it was all because of the leadership of Nehemiah. And the leadership of the other leaders that were involved in the rebuilding of the wall. Ronald Reagan says, the greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets the people to do the greatest things. The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things, but he gets the people to do the greatest things. That's what Nehemiah did. He came in, saw what needed to be done, organized other leaders, got a workforce together, and allowed people to work on their little section. And not just the people who were handy with tools, not just the people who had teaching experience, not just the people who had cooking experience, but everyone. They were all called to rebuild the wall. The third element we see is that leaders inspire passion. Leaders inspire passion. Verse 20 says, next to him was Baruch, son of Zabiah, who zealously repaired an additional section from the angle to the door of the house of Eliashib the high priest. Baruch is the only one mentioned to be working zealously. He got a glimpse of the passion from the other leaders. He got an idea of their vision. And he said, you know what, I may not be able to do the entire wall, but they have faith in me to be responsible for this section. So he went and gave it his all. He didn't start each morning kicking and cussing and throwing things around because he didn't want to be working. The Bible says he did it zealously, with passion. Romans 12:11 says, never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. I wonder if we truly examine each individual in this list, if we would see that kind of attitude. Would we see them working and serving God enthusiastically? That they would be doing it all for the glory of God. If you notice, there was only one group of people mentioned who didn't work. And they will forever be remembered as the people who didn't help. But leaders inspire other leaders. They inspire the butt people. And they inspire passion. Nehemiah had nothing to gain from rebuilding the wall. He didn't live there. He didn't work there. He had nothing to gain. He wasn't passionate about the wall itself. He was passionate about what the wall would mean for the nation of Israel. It would mean protection against their enemies. It would mean a renewed dignity. No longer would they be the laughing stock of the other nations. Oh, you're God's chosen people. Look at your wall. Right? They would no longer be the laughing stock. They would also have a restored hope. Nehemiah was focused on what it would do for the entire nation. Leadership isn't about getting people on board. It's about getting people on board with your vision and your passions. And getting them to work together with you to accomplish the vision God has given you. If you have a God-given vision, you need to share your passion and vision with others. And get them excited, get them to work alongside you. Keep them encouraged and motivated until the job's done. Here's something really important. Don't wait for others to come to you. Go to them. Invite them to participate in something great for the glory of God. Give them ownership in their work. Give them the recognition they deserve in that work. This is what leaders do. It's how they get projects going, and it's how they get the job done. Not only do we see that in the way Nehemiah did it, we see it in the way Jesus lived. Jesus didn't wait for people to come up to him and say, "Can we be your disciple?" Jesus went out. And he got people on board with his passion to save the lost. And he wasn't looking at it as recognition for himself. He was looking at it as he cared more about what it would do for the entirety of mankind. So that souls would be saved and lives would be renewed. We have examples of that all throughout Scripture. Nehemiah and Jesus are just two of the good and better ones. I'm wondering if we have examples of that type of leadership here in this congregation. What kind of passion has God put in your heart? What kind of passion has God given you? And are you willing to share that with other people? Let's pray. God, we just thank you so much for the examples you give us in Scripture. God, of the people who are given passion and given a vision, and that go out and work toward that vision by getting others involved and inspiring other people to be involved. God, I pray that we would take your word to heart. God, that we wouldn't just think of the work that needs to be done as something someone else can do. But God, we would take ownership of it. That we would be inspired by your word. And God, through that we would inspire others to work with us. To change the things that need to be changed. To renew the things that need to be renewed. To give hope to those who need hope. God, as we leave this place today, I pray that we would continue to celebrate the freedoms we have in you. But God, that we would also work toward rebuilding those relationships that are broken down. And we would rebuild the relationship that is broken down between men, so that all can be restored, so that hope can be renewed. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.